Well, welcome students. This is the first post, opening the post in week 1 of our advanced philosophy course in the master's program. I realize there are a few problems to get through with audio taping the first post. The idea of audio taping videotaping that is to try to increase a sense of relationship and connection between myself and the students. There's a few problems, like for instance, sitting here on a Monday evening in my house, I realize, I should probably fix my hair, like maybe I should get dressed up or something, and you know what, I'm not going to do that. The other thing is the technology, and if you're watching this, I guess I figured it out. There is the text to post 1. You can read it on the Moodle. You'll see that the post is 350 words. Excuse me a moment. I need to make sure that this stays on top. There we go. So 350 words. It's like a crossword puzzle or something. It was really difficult for me to condense my ideas down to 350 words. But you know what? As I did it, I removed extraneous ideas and I honed into my key ideas. I saw what was essentially important to me in this process of weeding it down to 350 words. And I also went through the discipline of taking out, I always add all sorts of extra words into my writing, and I can just dish them. It makes my writing more elegant. Well, you can see if my writing's elegant or not. So when I look back, the central ideas of this post are why a philosophy of psychiatric nursing, or what is a philosophy, I guess, of psychiatric nursing, and this idea of relationship, or I should say relationship as a 5th metaparadigm concept in psychiatric nursing. I come to it here. I speak about philosophy, why we need philosophy here. I come back to relationship here, and I end with relationship as a concept in a psychiatric nursing philosophy. I structured the post because it's a bit of an example for you, so you kind of have a hot clue of where you might want to go. You might not do it the same way and be much more brilliant than I was, but in fairness, I'm trying to model a bit of what it might look like. So I used up 4 of my precious 350 words to make headings. And you know what? If you choose to use headings to help me understand what you're trying to do, I won't count them. So I pointed out that this section is prior learning, things I came to this topic. I'd learned well through teaching philosophy courses. And then I spent some time on the new learning that I got from the 2 articles. And I end with a learning need, something else I'd like to explore. I'd like to use some of the ideas from Bender along with some ideas from Reed, which may be a new article for you and new ideas for you. I'd like to use those two to explore the implications of relationship as a fifth metaparadigm concept in psychiatric nursing. This is my most current and obsessive focus. So if we go back and look at the post, oh shoot, ding. I put up a prior learning article if you were interested in it. The Salisbury article really nicely, and I think to me simply, talks about what a philosophy is and what a philosophy is not. A philosophy is a process. It's a curiosity. It's an exploration of ideas. It's a challenging of assumptions. It's a discovery of what our beliefs are. And it's a critical examination of our beliefs. And philosophy is also a critical evaluation of our practice as to whether our practice, the ways in which we are practicing, are in line with our beliefs. So right there, I'm saying something about why I think philosophy is important. So philosophy can be, it is a process. You write a philosophy. The end of this course, you'll write up something that is a philosophy or a piece of your philosophy. But I don't think it's ever static. I think you continue to use the tools of philosophy to think, to challenge, to debate, and to discuss with other people. So philosophy is a discourse, interchange. It's done through debate and discussion. And philosophy is a framework to guide your practice, to examine and guide your practice. But philosophy is not empirically testable. You can't prove a philosophy. You can just debate a philosophy. Another foundation or prior learning that's essential to this course and a philosophy of psychiatric nursing are the concepts ontology, epistemology, ethics, and it's worth your while to understand what methodology means too. And if you don't know what those things mean, you can write me an email. You can discuss it with other class members. You can join a Zoom session. You can Google it. I have a pretty good grasp on what those things mean. And I'll tell you, I didn't have a grasp on them the first time I read them or the first couple of times I read them. But the more I work with those concepts, the more I understand what they mean and how they can be useful to me as thinking tools. Because I really like thinking. I really like ideas. And Salisbury, I can't remember exactly right now if she defines those terms or not. You'll have to look and see, check yourself. But Salisbury also introduces the idea of a metaparadigm of nursing. In other words, 4 concepts within nursing that are phenomena that are essential to the practice and the philosophy of nursing. So if you're thinking about nursing, you need to think about health, person, environment, and nursing. 4. Because if you don't identify what are the fundamental concepts of the discipline, it's very difficult to then move along in the development and articulation of the philosophy. So those 4 metaparadigm concepts add consistency and structure to a dialogue across nursing, across time, about what is the philosophy of nursing. The Department of Psychiatric Nursing at Brandon University believes that relationship has to be included in a psychiatric nursing paradigm and a psychiatric nursing philosophy. It's foundational to what we do and what we believe. It's what is called an organizing principle, an overarching organizing principle. So go on to the Moodle site and click on Department of Psychiatric Nursing philosophical beliefs. And there is a graph there that shows you how we conceptualize the 5 metaparadigms of a psychiatric nursing philosophy. This term organizing principle is used quite commonly now in the social sciences, and it means that a concept, for instance, relationship, is used as a central reference point or an analytical tool for understanding all other concepts. And I will talk more at another time about what are the implications of relationship as an organizing principle in a philosophy of psychiatric nursing. Bruce, Reitz, and Lim were, a while ago, new reading for me. And I had not understood that you could have these 2 broad categories of analytical and continental philosophy. It made sense when I read it. But as soon as I read it, I realized I fit quite solidly in a continental tradition of philosophy. As soon as they started to talk about examination of language, examination of social discourse, and the historical context and development of contemporary ideas, I knew that I fit within continental tradition of philosophy. So the authors that they mentioned, who I think of as social theorists, I guess they're philosophers, I've studied those individuals, and my main man has been Foucault as a way of understanding, as a framework for understanding, as tools for thinking. I think that analytical philosophy techniques can be really useful in articulating a clear, logical argument. But we understand the social world, which is what I'm interested in, through the analysis of the social world. So, for instance, through social discourse and through social construction of meaning. I appreciated Bruce et al.'s approach to making philosophy relevant to nursing practice. When they talked about anti-intellectualism, it sounded very similar to me to much discussion in the nursing literature on the practice theory gap. I've heard nurses that I used to work with on the floors in acute care psychiatry talk about that perceived practice theory gap, that somehow we may be producing students who have a great intellectual, scholarly, and academic understanding of psychiatric nursing, but that is not what happens on the floor. That's not the reality of practice. I've heard that many times. I personally believe that philosophy is an essential tool to practice. That's kind of a long story. I hope I get that across over the course. Rolf talks about how practice and theory is a false dichotomy. The practice and theory are always cojoined, and he calls it praxis, Praxis. They are mutually informing each other. Doan and Barco claim that theory is always already practice. So when you're practicing as a psychiatric nurse on the acute care unit, you are operating on the basis of theory, assumptions, and beliefs, whether you know you are or not. And you're testing your prior knowledge against your experience in your everyday practice. And you're building new ideas, new theories, new assumptions, and new beliefs about, well, psychiatric nursing, what health means, the role of environment, the nature of human beings. Bruce et al. Suggests this three-prong approach to making philosophy relevant to practice, and I had not heard this before. They talk about philosophy can be content, philosophy can be method, and philosophy can be a way of life. I think they explain it quite well, so I'm not going to reiterate it, but seemed useful to me. This article also talks about neoliberalism. Hey everybody, this is a continuation of the previous clip. I didn't realize that you couldn't put it on pause. And I wanted to find this article, Understanding Philosophy in a Nurse's World, Bruce Retzi and Lim. And I have made all sorts of notes on here that I think are incredibly important. I've included my notes on the Salisbury article. I'll include this marked copy on the Moodle site too, in case that's helpful for you in analyzing the article. And you can see what I think is important out of the article and how my thinking evolved based on the new learning I got from the article. What I'm pointing to here is a definition of neoliberalism, which you see very frequently in social critique, in critical discourse theory, and social theory. And at first I was like, what does that word mean? Liberalism? Neoliberalism? Because they seem to be talking about something that I didn't associate with liberalism. Anyways, I'm starting to understand what they mean by it, and it definitely is a critique of our capitalist global economy. Neoliberalism is a current manifestation or resurgence of liberalism, and it has been evolving. It stresses individualism, the value of the individual. The individual is the fundamental unit of society. It also stresses a laissez-faire political and economic principles, that an unfettered free market and individual self-interest will lead to the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Neoliberalism in healthcare is highly criticized for dismantling the social safety net and privatizing health and social services. The basic principle is that individuals are free to choose the services they believe are best for them. So, given the opportunity and the resources, individuals will choose the best options for them. And if all the individuals in society choose the best options for themselves, then we'll end up with the best results for the best number of people. There's a lot of criticism of neoliberalism, partly because it involves this dismantling of the safety social net, and it assumes that everybody has equal access to resources in our society. It also assumes that the individual is the basic unit of society, as opposed to a collectivist perspective where one might view the family as a basic unit of society or social group. Neoliberalism is closely associated with something called managerialism, which I believe is very important in understanding and analyzing healthcare and mental health care. Managerialism is the assumption that business and economic management principles can be applied to healthcare in order to maximize healthcare service efficiency. We think the biomedical model causes us difficulty in enacting person-centered psychiatric nursing practices and principles, but I believe managerialism is even a greater difficulty. We have governments now running healthcare, and they do so with the highest priority being economic efficiency. Oh, there I go off on a rant about neoliberalism. People tend to rant about neoliberalism. But I'm saying that in this neoliberal managerial healthcare environment, it is actually difficult to practice psychiatric nursing ideals. And the literature supports that. This is what nurses are finding. And it's often blamed on a biomedical model, but as I said, I think the managerial model is equally, if not more, at causing difficulties. I believe that philosophy aids us in identifying, defending, and enacting our values into practice. The recovery model and humanistic psychiatric nursing requires us to consider human values in our practice. Because we deal with individuals in their distress and in trying to achieve a quality of life. I think psychiatric nursing is about human values. Now, Bender, the article by Bender, looks at another key aspect to how nursing philosophy is talked about and practiced. And the traditional metaparadigm and the four concepts. She is suggesting that we not look at the static concepts so much as the relationship between the concepts. She makes the case that relationality is an overarching worldview through which the metaparadigm concepts in nursing are understood. So in nursing, philosophy and theory Often the word is called relation. The concept is labeled relationality. That's the word that gets used. And let's talk about relational practice, relational epistemologies. In psychiatric nursing, we talk about relationship. So Bender does a really nice job of talking about how we can understand the nursing metaparadigm concepts through looking at the relationship between the concepts. She doesn't take it that step further for a philosophy to talk about the ontological, epistemological, ethical, and perhaps methodological implications of using relationship as an overarching organizing principle for understanding nursing, or I'm saying psychiatric nursing. Oh, that reminds me of something really important I wanted to bring up. If it was in this article, I may have trouble putting my finger on it right now, but I'll tell you what I remember. I use the term nursing, psychiatric nursing, because I am a psychiatric nurse. That's the discipline I come from, and it is the title of the program, Masters of Psychiatric Nursing. But I am fully aware that there are many RNs and BNs who become experts in psychiatric nursing. So psychiatric nursing is both a separate profession and a specialty, is both a separate discipline and profession and a specialty within the profession of nursing. So that we all have a great deal to add to this discourse on psychiatric nursing philosophy. There are, it would be very interesting analysis to look at the implications of using the word psychiatric nursing instead of mental health nursing or some other phrase, because that term psychiatric nursing kind of ties us to the psychiatric psychiatry biomedical model. But I don't have the power of changing the name of my profession or the power to change the name of this program. So please bear in mind, we are talking about nurses from at least two disciplines practicing in this area of mental health. As we go through the course. And I use the word psychiatric nursing because I don't want to say psychiatric mental health nursing all the time. All right. So, okay, the last little bit I have added on to my post is this last piece, which is represents new knowledge that I would like to work on. So I'd like to use the ideas from Bender of how she looks at the metaparadigm as understanding the processes or relationships between the concepts. And I also want to bring in an idea that's expressed by Reed in 1997 to explore the implications of relationship as a fifth metaparadigm in concept in psychiatric nursing. So that's a new area of learning, and it is the ideas from Reed that I would bring into a further discussion. I have made some references here. I have not referenced the required readings because this is a bit like an annotation, so I just note Bender. But I have given the citation for other articles that weren't the required reading, like Reed and also Salisbury, because it wasn't required reading. Well, this is kind of high risk doing this post by video. I probably ramble just as much when I'm teaching a class, but I don't have to look at it afterwards. So here you go. This ends up being part 2 of one post. Those 2 parts form the opening post for class 1, week 1 of the philosophy within the master's program. So go to it. Your turn.